The ship was dying. Nari knew this because the lights kept flickering and the air tasted wrong. She had been running for 11 months now. 11 months of hiding in asteroid fields. 11 months of stealing fuel from abandoned stations. 11 months of watching her ship fall apart piece by piece while the hunters stayed close behind her. She was the last of her kind, or close to it. The Velith had once numbered in the millions. They had been a peaceful species. They had no weapons, they had no military, they had only one thing that made them valuable to the rest of the galaxy. Their blood contained a compound that could extend the lifespan of other species by decades. And so the hunting had begun. Nari pressed her hand against the cold metal wall of her ship. Through the small window, she could see the stars. Somewhere behind those stars, 17 ships were chasing her. The Crimson Consortium, the most feared bounty hunters in the galaxy. They had been hired by wealthy buyers who wanted to live forever. They did not care that Nari was a person. To them, she was just medicine with legs. The lead hunter was named Gruul. He was a massive reptilian creature with scales the color of dried blood. Nari had never seen him in person, but she had heard his voice on the communication channels. He spoke about her the way someone might speak about a lost package. He was patient, he was professional, and he never stopped. Nari checked her navigation screen. Her heart was beating so fast, she could hear it in her ears. According to the map, she was approaching something called human space. She did not know much about humans. They were a young species. They had only been part of the galactic community for about 50 years. Most species considered them unimportant. Small population, single planet of origin, no major alliances. But Nari had heard other things too. Strange things. Whispered things in the dark corners of space stations where criminals gathered. Some hunters said that human territory was dangerous. Not because humans were violent, but because something about them was different. Wrong, even. Hunters who entered human space sometimes did not come back, and the ones who did come back refused to talk about what happened. Nari did not care about the rumors. She only cared about staying alive for one more day. Her ship shook violently. An alarm screamed. Engine failure. She had maybe 30 minutes before her vessel became a floating coffin. She looked at the boundary marker on her screen. Human space was 20 minutes away at her current speed. She pushed the engines harder. The ship groaned in protest. Behind her, the 17 consortium vessels gained ground. They could see she was failing. They could taste the end of the hunt. Gruul's ship moved to the front of the formation. He would want to be the one to capture her personally. The glory, the payment, the satisfaction of finishing an 11-month chase. Nari whispered a prayer to gods she was not sure existed anymore. Her people had believed in gentle spirits that protected the innocent. Those spirits had not protected the Velith when the hunters came. But still, she prayed. It was all she had left. The boundary marker grew closer. 15 minutes. 10. 5. Then she crossed it. The moment her ship passed the invisible line, everything changed. Every console on every consortium vessel lit up with red warnings. An automated message began broadcasting on all channels. It spoke in every known language, one after another. The voice was calm, almost friendly, but the words were not friendly at all. You have reached the sovereign border of human space. Weapons discharge, hostile pursuit, and unauthorized entry are prohibited. Violators will be met with absolute response. This is your only warning. Nari watched through her rear cameras as the 17 ships behind her suddenly stopped. Not slowed down. Stopped. Like they had hit an invisible wall. She could see Gruul's vessel at the front. It hung in space, engines still running but not moving forward. For a long moment, nothing happened. Nari drifted deeper into human space while her pursuers stayed frozen at the border. She did not understand. The consortium feared nothing. They had attacked military convoys. They had raided protected colonies. They had killed soldiers and civilians alike without hesitation. Why would a simple warning message stop them? On his ship, Gruul stared at the boundary marker. His clawed hands gripped the armrests of his command chair so hard that the metal bent. Around him, his crew was silent. They were waiting for his order. They were waiting for him to say the words that would send them across the line. But Gruul was remembering. He was remembering a story he had heard years ago when he was still a young hunter. An older hunter, a veteran of hundreds of captures, had told him about human space. The old hunter had been drunk. His eyes had been distant, haunted. "Never chase prey into human territory," the old hunter had said. "I made that mistake once. I lost half my crew. Not to weapons, not to battle. We just lost them. The humans took everything from us, our ships, our cargo, our dignity, and they did it without killing a single one of us. That was the worst part. They let us live. They let us go home and remember." Gruul had laughed at the story then. He was not laughing now. "Sir," his second-in-command asked, "do we pursue?" Gruul did not answer immediately. He watched the tiny, damaged vessel drift further away from him. 11 months of work. 11 months of fuel and supplies and crew payments. The Valeth was worth more money than he would see in 10 lifetimes, and she was right there, just past an invisible line. "We wait," Gruul finally said. "She cannot survive long in that broken ship. When she dies, we retrieve the body." His crew exchanged glances but said nothing. They knew their captain. They knew he did not make decisions from fear. But they also saw something in his eyes that they had never seen before. Doubt. Inside her failing ship, Nari finally allowed herself to breathe. She did not know why the hunters had stopped. She did not know what waited for her in human space. All she knew was that for the first time in 11 months, no one was chasing her. She slumped against her console, exhausted beyond words. Her ship continued to drift, carrying her deeper into unknown territory. The stars outside her window looked the same as they always did, cold, distant, indifferent. But somewhere ahead, something was different. Something had made the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy afraid to follow her. Nari closed her eyes. Whatever happened next, she would face it. She had no other choice. She had been running for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to stop. Now, whether she wanted to or not, the running was over. The only question was what came next. The alarm on Station Haiti was not loud. It was a soft chime, almost musical, but everyone who heard it knew exactly what it meant. Something had crossed the border. Lieutenant Commander Yuna was eating her lunch when the chime sounded. She put down her chopsticks immediately and walked to her station. The screen showed a small vessel drifting through the outer markers. It was badly damaged. Engines were failing. Life support was critical, but there was still a life sign aboard. Yuna did not hesitate. She opened a channel to the patrol corvette Jindo, which was closest to the contact. "Captain Taiho, we have an incoming vessel. Damaged. 1 life sign, requesting immediate assist." The response came within seconds. "Understood, Haiti. Jindo is moving to intercept. What do we know about the vessel?" Yuna studied the readings. "Non-human design. Not in our database. The ship looks like it has been running for a long time. I am also detecting 17 vessels holding position at the border. Consortium signatures." There was a pause on the channel. When Taiho spoke again, his voice was harder. "Consortium hunters stopped at our border with a damaged ship running ahead of them. This is not a coincidence." "No, sir. It is not. We follow protocol. Rescue first. Questions later." The Jindo was a small ship, built for patrol and rescue operations. It was fast and agile, with a crew of 32. Captain Taiho had commanded it for 6 years. In that time, he had rescued miners from collapsed asteroids, pulled survivors from crashed transports, and once saved an entire colony ship that had lost navigation in a nebula. He had seen many strange things in space, but he had never seen anything like the creature they found inside the damaged vessel. She was small, smaller than a human child. Her skin was pale silver, almost translucent. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of deep water. She had no hair, but delicate patterns covered her scalp, like natural tattoos. And she was terrified. When the airlock opened, she screamed. It was a thin, high sound, full of absolute fear. She pressed herself into the corner of her tiny ship, holding something against her chest. A small data chip. She held it like it was the most precious thing in the universe. Taiho held up his hands slowly. "We are not going to hurt you," he said. His voice was calm and gentle. The universal translator on his collar converted his words into a language the creature might understand. "We are here to help." The creature did not believe him. Of course she did not. Taiho understood. Whatever she had been through, it had taught her that strangers meant danger. Trust was something she had probably forgotten long ago. "Salmon," Taiho said quietly. "Come forward, slowly." Ensign Salmon was the ship's medic. She was young, with a round face and kind eyes. She moved toward the creature with careful steps, like approaching a wounded animal. She carried no weapons, only a medical kit. "Hello," Soman said softly. "My name is Soman. I am a healer. I can see that you are hurt. Will you let me help you?" The creature's dark eyes moved from Soman to Taiho, to the other crew members standing in the airlock. She was calculating, trying to figure out the trap, trying to understand what these beings wanted from her. What do you want?" the creature finally asked. Her voice was weak, tired. "Nothing," Taiho said. "We want nothing from you. You crossed into our territory in a damaged ship. Our law says we must offer help to anyone in distress. That is all." The creature stared at him. "That is not how it works." "It is how we work." Slowly, very slowly, the creature loosened her grip on the corner. She allowed Soman to approach. The young medic knelt beside her and opened the medical kit. She scanned the creature's injuries with a small device, then began treating the wounds with gentle hands. "You are dehydrated," Soman said, "and you have several infections. When did you last eat?" The creature thought about it. 3 days. Maybe 4. Soman looked back at Taiho. Her expression said everything. This being had been running for her life, running so hard that she had forgotten to take care of herself. They brought her aboard the Jindo. They gave her water and food. They wrapped her in warm blankets because her body temperature was dangerously low. They put her in the medical bay, which was small but clean and bright. Through the window, she could see the stars. The same stars she had been fleeing through. But now they looked different somehow. "What is your name?" Taiho asked. He sat in a chair beside her bed, keeping a respectful distance. "Nari," she said. "My name is Nari." "Nari, that is a nice name. I am Captain Taiho. This is my ship. You are safe here." Nari looked at him with those deep, dark eyes. "Why did they stop?" "Who?" "The hunters. The consortium. They have been chasing me for 11 months. They have never stopped. But when I crossed your border, they stopped." "Why?" Taiho considered his answer carefully. "Because they know what happens if they do not stop." "What happens?" "They learn that we protect what is ours, and the moment you crossed that border, you became ours to protect." Nari did not understand. She had spent her entire life in a galaxy where the strong took from the weak, where money decided who lived and who died, where her entire species had been hunted to extinction because their bodies contained something valuable. The idea that someone would protect her simply because she needed protection did not fit into anything she knew. "I have nothing to give you," she said. "I have no money, no resources, no value." Taiho leaned forward slightly. His eyes were serious. "You are a person. That is your value. That is all the value you need." For a long moment, Nari just stared at him. Then something changed in her face. Something cracked. And for the first time in 11 months, she began to cry. Soman sat beside her and held her hand. She did not say anything. She just let Nari cry until there were no more tears left. Later, after Nari had fallen asleep from exhaustion, Taiho went to the bridge. He opened a channel to Fleet Command. Admiral Junho's face appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had been a captain once, long ago. He understood what it meant to make difficult decisions in deep space. "Report," the admiral said. "We have recovered the refugee, a Velith female named Nari. She is the target of a consortium hunting party, 17 vessels, now reinforced to perhaps more. They are holding at the border." The admiral was quiet for a moment. "The Velith. I have read the reports about them. What was done to their species?" "Yes, sir. It is bad." "And the consortium? What do they want?" "Her. Alive, preferably. Dead, if necessary. Her blood is apparently worth more than most planetary budgets." Admiral Junho closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, there was something cold in his expression. Something that Taiho recognized. It was the look of a man who had made his decision. "Bring her home, Captain. Bring her to Hete Station. We will take care of the rest. And the consortium? Leave them to me." Taiho ended the transmission. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 17 ships full of hunters were waiting. They thought they were patient. They thought they had time. They were wrong. The Galactic Council met in a great chamber at the center of known space. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered there to discuss trade, territory, and treaties. It was supposed to be a place of civilization, a place where problems were solved with words instead of weapons. Today, the chamber was tense. The Crimson Consortium had filed a formal complaint against humanity. They claimed that humans were harboring stolen property. They demanded immediate return of their asset. Ambassador Yunji represented Earth. She was a small woman with short black hair and a calm smile. She wore simple clothes, no jewelry, no symbols of power. She looked like someone's grandmother. Several of the larger species in the chamber looked down at her with obvious contempt. Humans were still new to the galactic stage, still considered weak, still considered unimportant. The consortium representative was named Vrek. He was a massive creature with 4 arms and gray skin like stone. He towered over Yunji by at least 2 meters. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "The human government is in violation of interstellar law," Vrek declared. "They have taken possession of property that belongs to legitimate bounty holders. We demand immediate extradition of the Velith female designated as Target 742. Yunji listened to the translation in her earpiece. Her smile did not change. "If I may respond," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "The Galactic Council recognizes the right of any species to grant sanctuary to refugees. The individual in question crossed into human territory of her own will. She requested protection. We granted it." "She is not a refugee," Rex snarled. "She is property. She is cargo. She is a legitimate bounty target with documented claims from 17 registered hunting parties." "I see." Yunji reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. "Before we continue this discussion, I would like to submit evidence into the record." She placed the chip into the chamber's central display system. Holographic images filled the air above the council. Images of Velith cities burning. Images of Velith children being loaded into cargo ships. Images of processing facilities where Velith were drained of their blood until they died. Documents showing payments from wealthy buyers across the galaxy. Names, dates, numbers. The chamber fell silent. This data was provided by the refugee in question, Yunji continued. It documents the systematic extermination of the Velith species over the past 40 years. Not a war, not a conflict, an extermination. The Crimson Consortium has been the primary contractor for this operation. They have killed approximately 2.3 million Velith individuals for profit. Rek's stone face showed no emotion. The Velith were never a protected species. Their fate is regrettable but legal. Legal, perhaps, but not moral. Yunji turned to face the full council. The human government does not recognize bounty claims on sentient beings. We do not surrender refugees. We do not negotiate with those who profit from genocide. This is not a request. This is a statement of fact. Rek stepped forward. He loomed over Yunji like a mountain about to fall. You are making enemies you cannot afford, human. Your species is young, weak. You have one planet, one fleet, one chance to avoid destruction. Choose wisely. Yunji looked up at him. Her smile remained exactly the same. I think perhaps you should learn more about our history before you threaten us. She pressed another button on the display system. More images appeared, but these were different. 52 years ago, when humanity first developed faster-than-light travel, we were attacked. A consortium raiding party targeted one of our colony ships. 300 civilians, families, children. The consortium expected us to pay tribute, to surrender, to become another source of profit for their organization. The images showed what happened next. Human ships. Small at first, then more, then more. A wave of vessels moving through consortium space with terrible precision. Over the following 6 months, we dismantled every consortium installation within 3 star systems. Not destroyed, dismantled. We took their stations apart piece by piece. We grounded their ships. We removed their weapons. We freed every prisoner they held. Yunji paused. We did not kill anyone, not one. We simply showed them what happens when you hurt humans. We showed them that we do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not stop. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Rek had stopped moving. The consortium learned their lesson then, Yunji continued. They agreed to never enter human space, to never target human vessels, to never threaten human interests. That agreement has lasted 50 years. She looked directly at Rek. You are about to break it. Rek's 4 hands clenched into fists. One refugee is not worth a war. I agree, so perhaps you should withdraw your hunters from our border. We will not. Then you have made your choice. Yunji turned back to the council. The human government formally requests that the Galactic Council investigate the consortium for crimes against sentient species. We have provided evidence. We expect action. She gathered her materials and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. At the door, she paused and looked back at Rek. One more thing. You called us weak. You said we have one planet, one fleet, one chance. Her smile finally faded. You are wrong. We have something much more dangerous than ships and weapons. We have principles, and we have each other. Every human in the galaxy will fight for that refugee, not because she is valuable, not because she can give us anything, but because protecting the innocent is who we are. She left the chamber. Rek stood alone in the center of the room. Around him, the other representatives whispered among themselves. Some were looking at the evidence still floating in the air, the images of Velith dying, the documents proving genocide, the truth that the consortium had hidden for so long. Others were looking at Rek with new eyes, calculating eyes. If the humans could dismantle consortium installations without killing anyone, what else could they do? What would happen if someone else tried to cross them? Rek did not care about the whispers. He only cared about the money. The Valeth female was worth too much to abandon, and human pride needed to be broken before it became a bigger problem. He opened a communication channel to Gruul at the border. "New orders! Enter human space! Take the Valeth! Kill anyone who gets in your way! Make an example!" There was a pause on the other end. Then Gruul's voice, rough and cold. "Understood. It will be done." Rek closed the channel. He looked at the images still floating above the council. Burning cities, dying children, mountains of bodies. He felt nothing at all, but somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a warning. The same warning that hunters had whispered to each other for 50 years. The same warning that Gruul had ignored. Never chase prey into human space. Those who enter do not return. Gruul gave the order at dawn. Not that dawn meant anything in space, but he liked the symbolism. A new day, a new hunt, the end of a chase that had lasted too long. His fleet had grown. 17 ships had become 47. Freck had sent reinforcements from across consortium territory, warships with heavy weapons, troop carriers filled with soldiers. Support vessels carrying enough supplies for a long campaign. This was no longer a simple bounty hunt. This was an invasion. "All ships," Gruul broadcast, "cross the border, formation Delta, weapons ready. We take the Valeth alive if possible, dead if necessary. Kill anyone who interferes." 47 ships moved forward as one. They crossed the invisible line that had stopped them before. The automated warning message played again, calm and almost friendly. Gruul muted it. For the first few hours, nothing happened. The consortium fleet moved deeper into human space. Sensors showed stations and settlements ahead, but no military response. Gruul began to smile. The stories were lies. Humans were cowards. They had been hiding behind words and reputation for 50 years. Then the alarm sounded. "Contact," his sensor officer reported. 5 vessels approaching, human military signatures. Gruul laughed. 5 against 47? He leaned back in his command chair. "This will be easier than I thought." The 5 human ships were small. Patrol corvettes, similar to the one that had rescued the Valeth. They formed a line between the consortium fleet and the inner systems. They did not run. They did not hide. They simply waited. A communication request came through. Gruul accepted it. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to a human male with tired eyes and a calm expression. His uniform identified him as Commander Dowan. "Consortium vessels," Dowan said. "You have violated sovereign human territory. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out. You will not receive another warning." Gruul leaned forward. "Little human, you have 5 ships. I have 47. Do you understand mathematics? I understand that you are making a mistake. The only mistake here is yours. Move aside or be destroyed." Dowan was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly, as if confirming something to himself. "Very well. You have made your choice." The communication ended. Gruul turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy them." What happened next would become legend across the galaxy. The 5 human ships did not fight like any enemy Gruul had ever faced. They did not try to destroy his fleet. They did not aim for reactors or bridges or crew quarters. Instead, they targeted engines, weapon systems, shield generators, communication arrays. They moved through his formation like water through stones. Every shot was precise. Every maneuver was calculated. They seemed to know where his ships would be before they got there. Within the first 10 minutes, 8 consortium vessels were drifting dead in space, not destroyed, disabled. Their crews were alive but helpless. Their ships were intact but useless. Gruul screamed orders at his captains: "Form up, concentrate fire, box them in." But the human ships were too fast, too coordinated. They worked together like fingers on the same hand, each one knowing exactly what the others would do. By the 30-minute mark, 12 more vessels had been disabled. Gruel's flagship took a hit to the engine room. Half his speed vanished in a flash of sparks. By the 1-hour mark, only 23 consortium ships remained operational. Commander Dowan's vessel had taken heavy damage. Fires burned in multiple compartments. Life support was failing. But he had not stopped fighting. A consortium warship finally got a solid lock on his position. 3 missiles launched. There was no time to dodge, no time to shoot them down. The bridge exploded. Dowan's final transmission was broadcast on all channels. His voice was steady even as the flames consumed his ship. "We protect our own, all of them." Then silence. Gruel felt nothing at the death. He had killed many enemies over the years. One more meant nothing. But he noticed something strange. The other 4 human ships had not retreated. They had not panicked. They had simply adjusted their formation and continued fighting. And then he saw what was coming from deeper in the system. Ships, dozens of them, hundreds of them. They appeared on his sensors like stars blinking into existence. But they were not warships. They were cargo haulers. Mining vessels, passenger transports, civilian ships of every size and shape. They were all armed. They formed a wall between Gruel and his target. A wall of ordinary people in ordinary ships. Miners and merchants and families, none of them military, all of them ready to fight. "What is this?" Gruel whispered. His second-in-command checked the readings. His voice was shaking. "Civilian defense fleet, sir. Every registered human vessel in the sector. They are responding to a general call. Civilians do not fight wars. These civilians do." Gruel stared at the wall of ships ahead of him. He thought about what the human ambassador had said at the council. Every human in the galaxy will fight for that refugee. He had thought it was just words, empty boasting. But now he understood. Humans did not have a military fleet. They had something worse. They had a civilization of warriors, every ship a weapon, every crew a soldier. There was no difference between their people and their military, because their people were their military. The wall of civilian ships did not attack. They simply blocked his path. Behind them, more military vessels were arriving. Reinforcements from other systems. The human fleet was growing larger by the hour while his fleet was shrinking. "Sir," his sensor officer said quietly, "I am detecting a large vessel approaching from the inner system. Very large. Bigger than anything in our database." Gruel looked at the readings. His blood went cold. The ship was called the Guangeto. It was the flagship of the human fleet, and it was larger than his entire remaining force combined. On Station Hayate, Nari watched the battle through the observation windows. She could see the flashes of weapons fire in the distance. She could see the human ships moving to protect her. Soman stood beside her. The young medic had refused to leave her side. "Why?" Nari asked again. The same question she had been asking since they found her. "You do not know me. My people never helped yours. We never traded with you. We never even spoke to you. Why are you dying for me?" Somin was quiet for a long moment. She watched the distant battle with sad eyes. "When humans first went to space," she finally said, "we were alone. No one helped us. No one protected us. We made mistakes. We suffered. We lost people." She turned to look at Nari. "We remember how that felt. We remember what it was like to be small and scared and hunted. And we promised ourselves that if we ever had the power to help someone else, we would use it. Even if it costs you. Especially then." Somin took Nari's hand gently. "You are one of us now, not because you earned it, not because you paid for it, simply because you needed us. That is enough. That will always be enough." Outside the window, the battle continued, but Nari was not watching anymore. She was looking at Soman's face, at the kindness there, at the strength. For the first time in her life, Nari began to understand what it meant to not be alone. The Guangaito arrived like a sunrise. It emerged from the darkness of space, and everything around it seemed smaller. The ship was named after an ancient king who had expanded and protected his kingdom against all enemies. It carried the hope of a species that refused to let the innocent suffer. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge. He was an old man now, gray hair, weathered face, hands that had held both weapons and newborn grandchildren. He had fought in the first consortium conflict 50 years ago. He had been a young captain then, full of fire and anger. Now the fire had become something else, something colder, more patient, more dangerous. "Open a channel to the consortium fleet," he said. His communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Junho looked at the screen. He could see Gruul's damaged flagship at the front of the remaining consortium formation. 23 ships. Once, that would have been enough to conquer a star system. Now, facing the Guangaito and the hundreds of vessels behind it, they looked like toys. "Consortium Commander," Junho said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You have fought well. Your courage is noted. But this ends now. Surrender your vessels and your crews will be returned to consortium space unharmed. Continue, and you will be stopped. This is not a threat. This is simply what will happen. Choose." On his flagship, Gruul stared at the massive human vessel. He could feel his crew watching him, waiting. Some of them wanted to surrender. He could see it in their eyes. They had watched 24 of their companion ships disabled in a single hour. They had seen what humans could do. But Gruul had been a hunter for 40 years. He had never surrendered. He had never failed to collect a bounty. His entire identity was built on being unstoppable. If he surrendered now, he would be nothing. "All ships," Gruul broadcast. His voice was rough, tired, but still defiant. "Attack formation. Focus fire on the large vessel. We take them down or we die trying." His remaining ships moved forward. It was suicide and everyone knew it. But they were consortium. They were hunters, and hunters did not run. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Guangaito did not even fire its main weapons. It did not need to. Smaller vessels from the human fleet swarmed the consortium formation. They disabled engines with surgical precision. They shorted out weapon systems with targeted pulses. They cut through shields like paper. Gruul's flagship was hit 17 times in those 4 minutes. Each hit took out another system: engines, weapons, communications, sensors. By the end, his ship was a floating shell. Lights flickered, air grew thin. The crew sat in darkness, listening to the silence. Human Marines boarded an hour later. They wore armor that covered their entire bodies. They carried weapons that Gruul had never seen before. But they did not kill anyone. They found Gruul on his bridge, sitting in his command chair. He had not moved. He had not tried to fight or escape. He simply sat there, staring at nothing. "Gruul of the Crimson Consortium," the Marine commander said. "You are under arrest for violations of human sovereignty, attempted murder, and crimes against sentient species. You will be transported to a human facility for trial." "Trial," Gruul repeated. The word sounded strange in his mouth. "Your people do not execute prisoners?" "No, we do not." "Then what will you do to me?" The Marine commander was quiet for a moment. Then she removed her helmet. She was a young woman with dark hair and serious eyes. She looked at Gruul the way someone might look at a dangerous animal that had been caged. "We will show the galaxy what you are," she said. "We will present the evidence of what the consortium has done. We will let every species see the truth, and then we will let them decide what should happen to you." She paused. "Sometimes living is a harder punishment than dying. You will have a long time to think about what you did." Gruul said nothing. There was nothing left to say. The Galactic Council reconvened 3 weeks later. This time the chamber was packed. Every species wanted to see what would happen. The evidence against the consortium had spread across the galaxy like fire. The images of dying Velith, the documents proving genocide, the truth that had been hidden for so long. The consortium was expelled from council space. Their assets were seized. Their leadership was placed under arrest. The organization that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries crumbled in a matter of days. Ambassador Yunji spoke to the council one final time. The human government formally announces that all surviving members of the Velith species are now under our permanent protection. Any individual or organization that attempts to hunt, capture, or harm them will be considered hostile to humanity. We will respond accordingly. No one objected. No one dared. Nari watched the announcement from Station Hayatai. She was not alone. Captain Taiho stood beside her. Somin was there too, and dozens of other humans who had gathered to witness the moment. "It is over," Taiho said quietly. "You are safe now, truly safe." Nari nodded slowly. She was still getting used to the idea. For so long, safety had been an impossible dream, something other species had, but Velith never would. Now it was real. "What will you do now?" Taiho asked. Nari thought about the question. She had been running for so long that she had forgotten how to do anything else. But now the running was done. Now she had choices. "I want to help others," she said finally. "Like your people helped me. There are other species out there. Other refugees. Other hunted peoples. I want to find them. I want to bring them here." Taiho smiled. "We have a program for that. The Sanctuary Initiative. We send ships to the borders of human space. We look for people who need protection. We bring them home. Then I want to be part of it." "I was hoping you would say that." Nari turned to look out the window. Earth hung in the darkness below, blue and green and beautiful. She had never seen a planet like it before. So full of life. So full of possibility. She thought about her own world, the home she had lost, the people who had died, the forests and rivers and cities that existed now only in her memory. That loss would never go away. It would always be part of her. But now she had something else too. She had a new home, a new family, a new purpose. The stars outside the window looked different now. For so long they had been symbols of fear, endless space full of hunters and danger and death. But standing here, surrounded by humans, Nari saw something else. She saw hope. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything." Taiho put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You do not need to thank us. You are one of us now. We take care of our own." Nari smiled. It was a strange feeling. Her face had almost forgotten how to do it. But it felt right. Behind her, human voices laughed and talked and lived. They were strange creatures, these humans. So small and fragile compared to many species. So young compared to the ancient civilizations of the galaxy. And yet they had done something that no one else had managed. They had looked at a hunted, broken refugee with nothing to offer, and they had said, "You are worth protecting." That, Nari realized, was what made them human. Not their ships or weapons or technology, but their hearts. Their stubborn, impossible, wonderful hearts. She turned away from the window and walked toward her new family. The stars would still be there tomorrow, and for the first time in her life, so would she.